Millionaire discovers his daughter's hidden struggle. Asking neighbors for food, a touching transformation awaits. Nathan Carter burst through the door, briefcase clattering to the ground. The weight of his day threatened to spill over, but it was the startling emptiness of the kitchen that caught him off guard. Not a single snack, not even a stray crumb. A pang of dread twisted in his stomach. He turned his gaze outside, spotting his daughter Lily, chatting with Mrs. Lopez, their modest neighbor from across the street. It was an innocent conversation, or so he thought. As days turned into an uncomfortable pattern of Lily's frequent visits, tension knotted in Nathan's chest. Why was she spending so much time over there? It was a classic case of small-town life, yet Nathan felt like an outsider watching a performance he'd never auditioned for. He prided himself on providing all the material comforts he thought Lily deserved, believing in the American dream, his life a testament to the grit that built his empire. Hadn't he sacrificed everything? But in those moments observing her through the window, a creeping intuition made him question everything he thought he knew about success, family, and happiness. There had to be more. He discovered the truth that shattered his carefully curated reality one gut-wrenching evening. The stark image of his daughter's hollow smile flashed in his mind as he pieced it together. Lily had been scrounging food from neighbors, desperate for sustenance, utterly overwhelmed by the pressures of college and the facade of being his dutiful daughter. It felt like a punch to the gut, and his world, once so steadfast, unraveled. Guilt crashed over him like a tidal wave, as if each dollar he earned and every late-night work session chipped away at the connection between them. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each passing day, Nathan watched the tight-knit camaraderie among the community unfold. A neighbor offering a warm dish, another gifting fresh produce from a last-minute grocery run. Compassion radiated among them like sunlight, while he, the millionaire, felt like the outsider burdened by expectations and failure. The emotional gulf he previously ignored widened, becoming a stark reminder of the dissonance between his life and hers. Nathan drove home on a Tuesday, the weight of impending doom seeming to pull the air from his lungs. Was he really as disconnected as the surprise revelation suggested? A comforting life was no replacement for a nurturing bond. Anxiety swirled within him as he considered how to bridge this widening gap. He hesitated, returning home to face his daughter, torn between the fear of shattering her self-image and the urgency to confront the truth. As he applied his anguish to thoughts of tangible actions, reaching out, making connections, nervous energy pulsed through him. He hadn't yet summoned the courage to reveal he knew about her secret. Instead, he stood paralyzed, staring at the reflection in the mirror. Who was he now? A wealthy man struggling to save face, or a father longing for deeper connection? Just as his mind spiraled in doubt, the doorbell echoed through the silence of their home, jolting him back. What awaited on the other side could force him to confront everything he thought he understood. Nathan took a deep, shuddering breath as he moved hesitantly toward the door. The sound of the doorbell felt like a summons, pulling him from the spiral of self-doubt that had ensnared him since he uncovered Lily's secret. He opened the door, and as he did, his heart raced in anticipation, caught between dread and the hope for a turning point. Standing before him was Mrs. Lopez, her hands trembling as she clutched a basket brimming with food. The warm aroma of freshly baked bread wafted into the house, instantly awakening his senses. Yet, in that moment, it wasn't the food that captured his attention, but rather the warmth of human connection that it represented. "Nathan, I brought this for you and Lily," she said, her voice soft but resonating with conviction. "I see how hard things have been for you both. You don't have to go through this alone." His chest tightened as he absorbed her words. Here he was, wrapped in the facade of success, but confronted with a glaring disparity between wealth and the community bond that seemed to flourish in his absence. He felt like a ghost that drifted through his own life, overshadowed by the empathy that blossomed in the simpler lives around him. "Thank you, Mrs. Lopez," he replied, but his voice came out raspy, choked with a gratitude that didn't feel enough. He took the basket, their fingers brushing together, a momentary connection that shocked him. Could it be that simple? Did she, a neighbor, possess a clarity in her compassion that he desperately needed? As she turned to leave, he felt a swell of determination tightening within him, a desire to break free from the invisible chains he had looped around himself. It was time he did more than just stand on the sidelines of his daughter's pain. He needed to dive headfirst into his fatherly role, to wrestle with the truths he had long ignored. With that thought, Nathan rushed outside, his resolve igniting. He caught up with Mrs. Lopez just as she reached her porch. "Wait," he called, his voice steadier now, grounded by urgency. "Can you help me? I need to understand what's been happening. With Lily. I can't go on pretending I know how to help her." Her gaze softened at his admission, and she nodded slowly. "Of course. But you must be willing to listen. To really listen. It's easy to get lost in our own worlds, and sometimes we forget how to see others. You're right. I know I've been distant." The words spilled out as he felt the weight of truth settle upon him. "I thought wealth would be enough, but it doesn't feel that way anymore. I've got a long way to go in learning to connect, to understand." "Then let's start there," she said with a gentle smile. "Come by sometime. Let's talk through it. Bring Lily, too. She needs to know you care, not just in words, but in action." As he stepped back inside, Nathan felt a flicker of momentum begin to pulse through his veins. He was no longer merely reacting to the chaos. He was stepping forward. He clutched the basket tightly, a tangible reminder of the shift that was beginning. He had to confront Lily, not just with the food he could buy, but with the vulnerability and love he had neglected. The evening stretched ahead filled with uncertainty, but Nathan felt as though he had breached a wall that had shielded him from facing the reality of his relationship with Lily. He made a mental note to plan for their conversation, determined to mend the fragile threads of connection. He sat at the kitchen table, feeling the weight of the basket before him, contemplating the right words to say. The room felt both empty and brimming with potential. It was time for action, time to forge a deeper bond, a time to invest not just in material comforts, but in a relationship that mattered more than all the wealth he had amassed. Moments later, a voice interrupted his thoughts, pulling him from his reverie. It was Lily, stepping through the door, her face alight with surprise. "Dad? What's going on?" He looked into her eyes, a mixture of apprehension and hope swirling inside him. "We need to talk," he said, bracing himself for the honesty, the vulnerability his heart yearned for. But just as he began to speak, there was an unexpected knock on the door again, echoing the uncertainty of the moment. Little did he know, that knock would call into question everything he thought he understood about family and the choices he'd soon have to make. Nathan's heart thudded in his chest as he turned towards the sound of the knock, confusion and apprehension playing across his features. He had been ready to stretch out his hand to his daughter, to unfurl the tangle of warmth that had begun to knit itself during this long, agonizing silence. Now, another interruption loomed, a jarring reminder of the unpredictable world that surrounded them both. Taking a breath to steady himself, he walked to the door, feeling the coolness of the handle beneath his palm. With deliberate slowness, he pulled it open to find another face, this one familiar but worn, a neighbor from down the street with a demeanor that suggested distress. "Nathan, I need your help," Ben said, the gravity in his voice instantly tightening the atmosphere. It's about my son, Tyler. He's in trouble at school and I can't reach him. I thought maybe—" Before Ben could finish, Nathan caught a glimpse of Lily hovering at the kitchen entrance, the earlier tension still etched across her features. It felt as if the moment held two separate realities, each beckoning for his attention. One where he faced the unresolved, pained silence with Lily, and another where he could play the hero for a fellow parent, doing what he had always believed was right. "Of course. What can I do?" Nathan replied, shifting his attention completely to Ben. Ben stepped inside with hesitant gratitude. "Tyler's been acting out, and I can't understand why. He was always such a good kid, but now—" His voice trailed off, underlined by an anxious note. Nathan felt a pang of recognition. This instinct to help, to save, was woven into the fabric of his own recent revelations. And as Ben spoke, Nathan internalized the connection. His own daughter's silence echoed the challenges Ben was facing. He was flooded with an eagerness to solve their problems, but became increasingly conscious of his own unresolved issues with Lily. "I can talk to him," Nathan offered, a strategy forming in his mind. He could reach beyond the walls of his home, where chaos and miscommunication reigned, and step into the shoes of another parent who needed support. It was a parallel that realized his own unresolved struggles. If he could protect this child, perhaps he could also begin the process of protecting Lily from her own silent battles. But somewhere in the back of his mind, a voice questioned his motives. Was he simply seeking a distraction from his own pressing struggles? As Ben rattled off details about Tyler's recent behavior, Nathan felt himself sliding further away from confronting Lily. Instead, he was readying himself to engage in another family's issues. Yet he knew the facade would falter if he neglected his own daughter any longer. Lily had come to rely on him to steer the ship, whether by choice or necessity. In Ben's desperate words, Nathan sensed a bitter truth. If he failed to address Lily's pain, how could he expect to help anyone else's children? "Nathan, you still with me?" Ben's voice snapped him back to the moment, the urgency in it a painful tether to reality. "Right, sorry," Nathan said, shaking off his own doubts. "I'll get in touch with Tyler's teachers, see if they can help. We'll figure this out." But in the depths of his mind, clarity began to surface, an awareness that he could set the trajectory for both Tyler and Lily, deciding whose lives he would impact by stepping into action. As Ben expressed his gratitude, Nathan felt the conviction of his earlier resolve flicker back to life. He would engage not just with Tyler, but also with Lily, who had become lost in this familial turbulence. That might entail hard conversations and explanations, wrenching open old wounds to give them breath. After Ben left, Nathan turned slowly towards the kitchen where Lily still stood, her uncertainty stark against the backdrop of their home. "Lily?" he began, his voice catching. "Can we talk now?" This time, as he searched her eyes, he recognized the weight of vulnerable openness. They could confront the truths hidden between them, and no matter how hard it may be, now was the moment to start. But the air shifted as the doorbell rang again, eliciting a jarring rush of tension. Who else could be standing on the other side, demanding attention when it felt like everything was finally aligning? With uncertainty pooling in his gut, he approached the door once more, aware that this next visitor could alter the course of not only his relationship with Lily, but his understanding of what it truly meant to be present for his family. Nathan opened the door with a mixture of trepidation and curiosity, the chill of the evening air pushing against him as he stepped outside. The sight that greeted him was both familiar and profoundly unsettling. It was Margaret, another neighbor, her brow furrowed and her typically bright demeanor dulled by lines of worry. "Nathan, I'm so glad you're home. I didn't mean to interrupt, but Her voice trailed off as she looked past him, catching a glimpse of Lily in the kitchen. The worry in Margaret's eyes deepened. "Can I come in?" Nathan stepped back, opening the door wider. "Of course. Is everything okay?" Margaret entered, her gaze focused on the ground, her fingers twisting anxiously around the strap of her bag. I know things have been difficult for the kids these days, and I've been hearing things about Lily." The name struck him like a stone, constricting his chest as he fought against the rising tide of defensiveness. "What do you mean?" He was aware of the fragility within his own family, but to think others were noticing sent a fresh wave of concern pulsing through him. "She's been spotted around the neighborhood, with some friends, not in the best situations. I thought maybe... Well, I know how it can be hard sometimes. If she needs someone to talk to, I'm here." Margaret offered hesitantly, a kind of empathy mingled with concern. The weight of her words reverberated in Nathan's mind. How could he allow his daughter to become so lost that she was being spoken of in hushed tones? Internally, sharp strands of shame twisted through him. Was he so engulfed in external crises that he had genuinely failed to notice Lily's struggles? "I appreciate your concern, Margaret, but I'll talk to her," he assured, though his voice faltered under the pressure of uncertainty. "I'll make sure she's okay." Margaret nodded, her expression a mixture of sympathy and understanding, but he could see the question lingering in her eyes. Did she truly believe him? After she left, Nathan wandered towards the kitchen, the harsh reality of the situation pressing against him like an immovable wall. He found Lily sitting at the table, a half-eaten slice of bread resting untouched in front of her. Her gaze was distant, lost somewhere between the walls of their home and the uncharted territory of her internal battles. "Lily," he started, swallowing hard, feeling the weight of multiple times he had failed to truly reach her. "We need to talk." She glanced up, uncertainty dancing in her features, as if she were trying to gauge his intent. "About what?" The challenge in her voice pierced him. It was as much a defense as it was a plea for clarity. "About your friends, about school. I heard from Margaret that you've been away from the house a lot. Is everything all right?" His voice was steady, but beneath that surface confidence bubbled a fear. What if, behind those elusive answers, lay a truth he was not prepared to face? Some friends are just not great influences. She shrugged, disinterest layered over something deeper. But he knew her well enough to see through the veil of defiance. This was a call for help, even if it was muffled in teenage rebellion. "What do you mean?" Nathan pressed gently. He remembered his decision to approach her challenges head-on, the commitment he made just minutes ago to prioritize her well-being. "I don't want to talk about it, Dad. You wouldn't understand," she replied, brows knitting tightly as she turned away. The sudden dismissal ignited a flame of frustration in him, but he held it back. "Try me," he insisted gently, unsure if he were managing a dialogue with his daughter or pleading for the right to step into her world. All at once the conversation shut down. She picked at the crumbs on her plate, and the emotional chasm widened again. Nathan could feel himself spiraling inward, his growing determination to bridge the gap battling against the compulsion to retreat. In that moment, he knew he was at a crossroads. Every ounce of him screamed to take action, to figure out whether he had the capacity to confront not only his daughter's struggles, but also the reality that he had neglected his own role in this cycle. As he sat down beside her, all the unresolved pain bubbled within him. To connect, to guide, and yet the deeper possibility of imminent failure loomed above. "Nathan." The pang in his heart ricocheted with her voice. "What if I can't change?" The question blurred the lines of logic. It was more than just a realization of her own helplessness. It was an unintentional mirror reflecting back his own doubts as a father. "I don't know," he replied. But suddenly, unwavering clarity struck him. "But I'm willing to try." He felt the moment hang in the air, heavy with tension, an urgent starting line stretching before them, waiting for the first step forward. Time paused, leaking anticipation, and as Nathan met Lily's gaze, he recognized a flicker of hope lurking there. "Can we Start by talking, he suggested, steeling himself for whatever she might reveal. But before she could respond, the distant sound of a siren blared through the open window, striking a stark reminder of reality. Both of them were suddenly reminded that life was teetering on the edge of entanglements far greater than either could foresee, and the churning uncertainty hung between them like a tempest waiting to break. Nathan felt the pull of that storm. One thing was certain: discussions wouldn't suffice anymore. They needed to confront whatever lay ahead, and the time had come to face their demons, together. Who would arrive next to twist the narrative once more, challenging the fragile ground they sought to solidify? Nathan inhaled deeply, hoping to cut through the thickness of silence that enveloped them. He could sense the impending storm, the need for a conversation that would uncover layers long hidden beneath their strained interactions. Lily's reluctance lingered in the air, and as he studied her face, the desperation of the moment hit him like a wave. "Lily," he began, his voice softer now, more coaxing than demanding. "I know it feels like I'm not the dad you want me to be, but I promise I'm in this with you. Whatever this is, whatever you're facing, you're not alone." She remained silent, her focus still on the crumbs scattered across her plate, her expression a mask of defiance intermarried with vulnerability. In that moment, Nathan felt the burning desire to break through. His resting emotional state had become one of urgency. The weight of responsibility had settled upon his shoulders. He needed to untangle the web that had ensnared them both. "What if I told you," he ventured, "that I've faced struggles too? Things that left me lost at times. It's okay to feel that. Everyone does." Lily's eyes flickered upward, searching his face for something. Understanding, perhaps. Nathan realized he'd been so focused on her that he had neglected to share his own flaws, his own battles. "Like what?" she challenged, her tone revealing a crack in her emotional armor. There it was, an opening. "Like when I started my business. It was hard. So many failures, so many nights I stayed up wondering if I'd ever figure it out. I had to learn to ask for help," he confessed, feeling a rush of energy as he opened a previously concealed door within himself. "Help?" Lily repeated incredulously. "But you don't need help." He struggled to suppress a smile, recognizing the inherent contradiction of her words. "You'd be surprised, actually. Behind every successful person is a story of difficulty and asking for support. I don't want you to feel like you have to fight this alone. It's okay not to have all the answers." Lily's brow furrowed again, absorbing this information with a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "And you think I could really change? Just by talking about it? You didn't change because someone told you it was okay." "No, I didn't. It was because I learned about myself in the process. What was worth fighting for. I want you to find that too. To discover what truly matters to you and what you're capable of." The distance between them was palpable, yet Nathan could feel it beginning to shrink. As he continued to speak, something shifted in Lily's demeanor, her defenses lowering just slightly, revealing a flicker of what seemed like hope intertwined with fear. "Are you really willing to do this, Dad?" she finally asked, voice trembling just a bit. "Because I don't know if I can be different." In that moment, Nathan knew this was a turning point, both for him and for her. "I am," he confirmed, allowing a genuine determination to shape his words. "But we both have to be willing to fight for it. I want to understand, no matter how hard it gets." As the words settled over them, there was a quiet understanding forming, a pact to explore the depths of their shared struggles and the paths leading away from them. Nathan felt the subtle invitation in her vulnerability, a signal that they could begin to rebuild the framework of trust that had cracked under the weight of unspoken words. Just then, a loud knock echoed at the front door, jolting them both from their moment of connection. Nathan's heart raced. He glanced at Lily, who mirrored his own apprehension. Who was standing on the other side, armed with new revelations or complications that could threaten their fragile opening. He rose, the urgency to confront whatever awaited them stirring a different kind of determination. This time, it was not just about Lily. It was about his own journey toward being the father she needed. As he reached for the door, a thought struck him. Was he really prepared for what was about to unfold? The possibility hung in the air. Nathan steadied his breath, drawing strength from the tension he felt coiling inside him. As he pulled open the door, he braced himself for an unanticipated conversation that could either deepen his connection with Lily or unravel the fragile thread they had begun to weave together. On the threshold stood Mr. Thompson, a neighbor whose presence often triggered Nathan's apprehensions. With a furrowed brow and a clipboard held tightly under one arm, he looked both serious and uncertain. "Nathan, I hope I'm not interrupting anything important," he began, his voice clipped. "Not at all," Nathan replied, forcing an easy smile, though he felt the weight of Mr. Thompson's scrutiny. "What's on your mind?" "I've noticed some changes in Lily lately," Mr. Thompson said, shifting uneasily. "I just wanted to check in. She seemed different at the last block meeting, distant." Nathan's heart sank. He had hoped that whatever was between him and Lily would remain private, a complex tapestry woven only with their struggles and confidences. "Is she okay? Is she struggling?" The words, raw and exposed, slipped out before he could stop them. "Honestly, I think she needs support," Mr. Thompson stated, glancing back as if ensuring Lily wasn't within earshot. "I wonder if she should see someone to help her process everything." Nathan felt a knot tightening in his stomach. He had prided himself on being there for Lily, investing time and energy into bridging their divide, yet he hadn't considered that a professional touch might be necessary. Anxiety swirled through him. Could he admit that he hadn't seen the extent of her struggles? "I appreciate your concern," he finally murmured, struggling to align his emotions. It was a gut-punch revelation. Perhaps he was not the only compass in Lily's life. Before Nathan could respond further, Lily appeared behind him, curiosity piqued, her eyes flitting between the two adults. Stalling the conversation to maintain the momentum they had just begun felt imperative. "Hey, Lily," he called, turning to her. "Mr. Thompson was just checking in on you." Lily's expression shifted, an undeniable flicker of resentment sparking across her features. "I'm fine, thanks," she replied sharply, wrapping her arms defensively around herself. Nathan's heart raced. He could feel their earlier connection fraying. "Maybe we should talk about this," he urged gently, trying to invite her back into the immediate conversation. "I want to know how you're feeling." "You mean, like, what he thinks about me?" she retorted, her voice edged with a mixture of disbelief and hurt. "No, Lily, it's not about him. It's about us," Nathan insisted, fighting the urge to dismiss Mr. Thompson's presence. The focus needed to remain on Lily. "It's about understanding what you need." Mr. Thompson interjected softly. "Lily, I'm not here to judge. I just want you both to feel supported." "Supported? Is that what you call it when people think I can't handle my life?" Her tone spiraled, triggering a hardening wall that Nathan had hoped they could dismantle together. As tension filled the room, Nathan realized something critical. In trying to serve as the sole anchor for Lily, he had overlooked the possibility of collaboration, both with professionals and within the broader context of the struggles they faced. Professional help didn't imply failure, but rather an acknowledgement that sometimes larger struggles required external support. "Maybe it's time to find someone who can help you navigate this," Nathan ventured cautiously, hoping to create a bridge rather than a barrier. "We can face this together." In that shared silence, the space between them crackled with unspoken fears and unknown possibilities. Nathan's commitment to being transparent about his own shortcomings felt more relevant than ever. He didn't have to shoulder all the burdens alone. In the moments that followed, they all stood poised between choices. Would Lily see this offer as an invitation or an imposition? Would Nathan push for what was best for her, regardless of his insecurities? As Lily's gaze deepened, a flicker of the earlier vulnerability re-emerged. "I don't know," she whispered, "if I can trust anyone else." Realization struck Nathan. Trust could not be dictated. It had to be earned anew, within the vulnerability of their uncertainty. The stakes had risen higher than he had anticipated, and now they stood on the precipice of a decision about whether to embrace help or stand rigid in their isolation. Before Nathan could reply, the weight of silence loomed again, thick and heavy. What lay ahead would test not just Lily's willingness to seek support, but Nathan's capacity to guide her through the complexities of opening up. Behind them, the door remained ajar, inviting, but equally intimidating. What awaited them on the other side, the risk of external input or the comfort of cloistered safety, loomed, filling the air with palpable uncertainty. With a final glance at Mr. Thompson, Nathan understood his role had to evolve if he wanted to reclaim the connection he so desperately sought. They were at a crossroads. The moment of truth was approaching, and he could feel it pulse like a heartbeat, stirring a resolve deep within him. "Are we ready for this?" he thought, knowing that whatever awaited them next would demand courage from both sides, setting the stage for even deeper revelations. The air was thick with unresolved tension as Nathan stood at the crossroads of uncertainty and resolve. The faint sound of Mr. Thompson's clipboard tapping against his thigh pulled him from his reverie. Nathan's instinct was to maintain his laser focus on Lily, yet the unsettling reality of what lay ahead flashed through his mind. He needed to address the gulf forming between them. "Lily," he started, his voice steady but laced with urgency. "This is about us finding a way forward. I can be here for you, but I can't know what you need if you don't share it." She crossed her arms tighter around herself, the movement echoing a retreat into her guarded posture. "You really think talking to someone else is going to change anything?" A bitter edge coated her words, revealing more than just skepticism. "No, I don't," he answered, lowering his voice in an attempt to create a softer atmosphere. "But it might give you tools. You can talk to me. You can vent. But a professional can help you sort through the noise. Help you find strategies to cope." The room was quiet, yet Nathan felt the turmoil whirling inside him. It mirrored the unease brewing in Lily. Would she perceive this as a betrayal of their budding trust? He felt the pressure to convince her while grappling with his own doubts. "I don't want anyone else." Her voice was softer now, but the underlying hurt remained clear. He observed her, taking in the tightness of her posture, the way the light seemed to retreat from her gaze. "What do you want, then?" "I'm here, but I can't promise to be everything you need." His honesty cut through the atmosphere, exposing a vulnerability in both of them, one that demanded recognition and a willingness to move forward, even amidst the pain. "I just want it to be okay," she finally said, her vulnerability surfacing like a delicate bloom in harsh soil. "Okay is a starting point," Nathan replied earnestly. "We can figure out what that looks like together." With a deep breath, he opened the door wider, both literally and figuratively, to the realistic uncertainties that lay ahead. Trust had to be earned, even if it was just a bit at a time. Nathan shifted his gaze toward Mr. Thompson, who had remained a silent observer, gauging the dynamics without pushing too hard. "Maybe you could help her see that support is more than just one person," Nathan suggested, recognizing the importance of community in healing, however fraught its edges might be. Mr. Thompson nodded slowly, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. "I've seen how hard it can be to ask for help. You're not alone in this, Lily," he reassured her gently, trying to add weight to his intentions. A crack formed in Lily's facade, and for the first time, she dared to meet Nathan's eyes. "I just feel broken," she admitted, her voice trembling, as if the words themselves were the weight she had carried for far too long. "You're not broken," Nathan asserted firmly. "You're human." Each word hung in the air between them, a lifeline thrown amidst the depths of their uncertainties. He could sense the fragility of the moment, but, paradoxically, felt a flicker of hope begin to burn. Perhaps they were both on the brink of embracing a new chapter in their connection, one fortified by mutual acknowledgement of their struggles and strengths. That flicker ignited something within Nathan, a determination to not only support Lily, but also confront his own hesitations about seeking help for himself. He stood on the precipice of both personal and relational evolution. How could he expect Lily to lean into vulnerability if he wasn't willing to do the same? Before he could articulate this resolution, a thought crashed upon him. What other fears had he been avoiding? What shadows lay within his own mind that he needed to confront alongside Lily? The tension in the room shifted, morphing into an uncharted territory filled with possibilities. As he pondered the fertile ground for growth ahead, he felt the impact of Lily's journey weighing heavy on his heart. He realized the path before them might also reveal hidden potentials within himself that had long rested dormant. In that vulnerable moment, Nathan sensed the water swell around him, deeper and more turbulent than anything he had anticipated. It was as if the journey had propelled them to face their own reflections, a mirror revealing fractured pieces that were begging to come together. With the door to their struggle wide open, the looming challenges felt more daunting than ever. Yet Nathan knew one thing was certain. They could no longer afford to stand still. Are we ready to dive into the unknown? Nathan thought, his heart racing with trepidation. Decisions loomed like shadows, as the potential for growth intertwined with the risks of exposing their deepest vulnerabilities. The journey was far from over. It was only just beginning. Nathan leaned against the peeling paint of the hallway wall, the weight of Lily's admission still swirling in his mind. She felt broken, raw, and inexplicably isolated from the world around her. He watched as she slowly released her defensive posture, a timid attempt to embrace the light he was offering her. But that light flickered in Nathan's own heart, overshadowed by his own internal chaos. Doubt crept in, gnawing at him. How could he effectively use this opportunity to bridge the gap between them when he felt so unsteady himself? He had spent years building the walls of his own emotional fortress, avoiding vulnerability at every turn. Now, as he stood on the brink of something unfamiliar, a relationship forged through shared sorrow and burgeoning trust, he realized the precariousness of his situation. "Help me understand, Lily," he said, sensing the tension still crackling between them. "What does it mean to feel okay for you?" Nathan's question hung in the air, a call to explore deeper feelings behind her guarded exterior. "It means not feeling this ache, this regret," she whispered, her gaze drifting to the floor. "Like every step I take is dragging me down." Nathan felt the gravity of her words. It struck him that her pain was a reflection of his own struggles. They were both in this murky water, grappling with feelings they didn't know how to voice. Nathan realized he had to be the one to initiate change, to peel away his layers and confront the very things he buried within himself. Taking a deep breath, he recalled years of self-imposed isolation and the fear of judgment that governed his decisions. What had he withheld from others to preserve a facade of strength? Every little failure, every fear wrapped in silence. The accumulation was stifling. Maybe it's time to let the walls come down, he thought, allowing himself to ponder the possibility that vulnerability could be a bridge, not a chasm. "Lily, I don't have all the answers," he said, clearing his throat. "But I want to share this journey with you. I know what it feels like to carry burdens in silence." His words felt heavy yet liberating as he shared a piece of his truth. She finally met his gaze, a flicker of curiosity igniting in her eyes. "What do you mean?" Nathan hesitated, but the moment felt crucial. "I've spent so much time convincing myself that I'm strong enough to handle everything on my own, not letting anyone in. It feels easier to push others away, but it hasn't helped, just like it isn't helping you." Lily's brow furrowed slightly, a mixture of surprise and empathy reflecting back. You too? I thought it was just me. Believe me, you're not alone, Nathan replied, surprised by how freely the words spilled from his lips. We can lean on each other, even if it's the hardest thing we've had to face. He felt empowered in his honesty, and an unspoken agreement seemed to settle between them. As they began to dismantle the walls, a quiet determination took root. Nathan realized that confronting his fears was no longer just an option. It was a necessity if he wanted to genuinely help Lily. He contemplated seeking professional guidance as well. Someone to help him navigate the realms of his own vulnerability, while being a steadfast presence for her. The naive bravado of isolation was crumbling. Here, in this somber hallway, the chance for growth stood within arm's reach. Yet beneath the surface of clarity lay the constant thrum of doubt. Would this journey reveal strengths he didn't know he possessed, or expose deeper cracks in his already fragile resolve? Before he could wrestle with those thoughts, Mr. Thompson interjected, guiding them back to the present moment. You both have shown great courage today, he remarked, breaking the tension. Now it's time to build that courage into a plan. The first step is always the hardest. Nathan felt the swell of hope rise alongside the fear. He needed to map out their path forward, not just for Lily, but for his own sake as well. This was their opportunity to grow, yet the stakes felt higher than ever. With determination percolating in his gut, Nathan turned to Lily, ready to face that unknown path together. Let's talk about what we can do to take these first steps, he suggested, fear still palpable but overshadowed by the warmth of possibility. As they began to outline their plan for emotional resilience, Nathan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced down, the distraction pulling him momentarily away from the hopeful connection blossoming between them. When he saw the message from his estranged father pop up on the screen, a chill washed over him. What now? He thought, sensing that old wounds were about to be reopened, threatening to disrupt the fragile progress they were making. Wariness crept back in, weaving itself into the fabric of hope. Would this new hurdle derail their journey before it had even begun? The storm of uncertainty loomed over them, whispering that to truly embrace healing would demand more than they had bargained for. Nathan tightened his grip on the phone, staring at his father's name as though it were a poisonous snake poised to strike. Memories flooded back, fractured conversations and unforgiving silences from a time when family meant more than just blood ties. With a deep inhale, he reclaimed his focus, forcing himself to return to the conversation with Lily. Just give me a sec, he muttered, feeling his breath quicken. The weight of his father's presence lurked in the periphery, urgent and suffocating. He looked back at Lily, who was watching him with a mix of concern and curiosity. Let's keep talking about how we can move forward. Lily nodded slowly, her face reflecting the uncertainties that skimmed like stagnant water across Nathan's mind. She had poured out her heart to him, yet here he was, wrestling with ghosts that threatened to shatter their tentative bond. Right, he said, forcing himself to smile. We can create a plan. Words tumbled from him, a mixture of reassurance and self-formation. We need to start small. What if we commit to sharing one vulnerability each week? Something we've each held on to? Like a mini therapy session? She chuckled softly, though the tension remained. Exactly, Nathan replied, emboldened by the flicker of humor in her eyes. Just a safe space we carve out for ourselves. I'll start. He shifted again, the anxiety still gnawing at him, but it was a short burst of courage that propelled him forward. Last year, I let an opportunity slip through my fingers. I was afraid of what everyone would think if I put myself out there, so I bailed out of a promotion. I thought it was easier to keep my head down. Lily's expression softened, a mixture of empathy and understanding forming in her own eyes. You didn't want to fail in front of everyone, she said gently. Yeah. And maybe, secretly, I didn't believe I was good enough either. Nathan rubbed the back of his neck, and the air between them felt charged. There was something liberating in this exchange, each confession an unlocking of chains he didn't even know were there. "Your turn," he prompted, willing her to find the same release. She took a moment, considering his words. "I've been resisting therapy," she finally admitted, the shyness in her voice morphing into quiet defiance. "Every time I think about it, I talk myself out of it. But I know I can't do this on my own." There was a shared satisfaction in this moment. Two souls grappling for footing on uncertain ground. Nathan's heart swelled. They had traded vulnerabilities, and in doing so, he'd found the courage he thought he lacked. The lingering shadow of his phone prompted him to glance down again, and frustration cut through him as he contemplated the message. What awaited him wasn't merely from the past. It was a call to define the present. And suddenly, he found himself entangled in a dilemma. Should he engage with a source of pain that could fracture his resolve? Or should he shut that door and focus on building something new with Lily? "Sorry," he said, echoing a familiar sentiment from earlier. "It's just what, Nathan?" Her probing gaze burrowing through him was as profound as it was unsettling. "It's about emotional strength, yours and mine," he confessed, the words tumbling with unexpected clarity. "I can't ignore my issues if I want to be there for you." Lily regarded him with silent encouragement, her eyes conveying trust that he so desperately needed to reciprocate. But the unrelenting vibration of his phone demanded attention, a stark reminder of the fractures lurking in his relationships beyond this moment. With resolve steadied, he swiped at the screen, revealing the message. "We need to talk. It's important." The simplicity of the words belied the storm they heralded, a storm he wasn't prepared to face. Feeling the ground shift beneath him, Nathan faced Lily, heart racing with recognition. This was where healing truly began, not just for them, but also for himself. But the question lingered. Could he balance the weight of the past while forging a new connection? "Maybe it's time for me to confront him," Nathan whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. Each moment felt like a choice, a path diverging beneath the dark clouds of his past. "What's the next step?" Lily asked, sensing his turmoil. "How do we face these storms together?" The question hung there, raw and charged. This was their crucial juncture, a point of decision where both of their fears clashed with the hope they'd started to build. Nathan swallowed hard, understanding that facing the unknown required more than just preparation. The moment had come to dig deeper yet again. How far was he willing to go to confront not only his father, but also the parts of himself he had always chosen to hide? With the tides turning, Nathan inhaled deeply, preparing to embrace a new vulnerability. There was no turning back. With newfound resolve, Nathan stood at the threshold of transformation. The shadows of his past loomed large, but they no longer defined him. He turned to Lily, who was digesting a mixture of nervous hope and lingering trepidation. Together, they were poised on the brink of an emotional renaissance. "Lily," he began, searching for the right words that could anchor their tumultuous sea of change. "To redefine our paths, we must confront the fragments of our pasts. I need to talk to my father. It's time to address those old wounds." Her eyes widened, fear and uncertainty flickering across her features. But what if it doesn't go well? What if it makes everything worse? Breath caught in his throat as he considered her words. He had spent years avoiding conflict, believing that ignoring familial tension was easier than addressing it head-on. But as he stood there, he knew that resistance would only perpetuate their suffering. "I know it's risky," he replied, his voice steady, "but I can't ask you to open up if I'm not willing to do the same. Every step we take, no matter how daunting, can lead us both to healing." Lily regarded him, curiosity mingling with apprehension. "So, what's the plan?" Nathan's heart raced in his chest, energized by a blend of vulnerability and determination. I need to set a date, reach out to him and find a way to confront our unfinished business. Just like we're doing here, he said, gesturing between them. Together. A layering of understanding passed between them. Nathan sensed it resonating in the air. He took a deep breath. And after I confront him, I want us to keep talking about our feelings. Set regular check-ins to ensure we're both moving forward, not just pretending everything's okay. It sounds like a lot of hard work, Lily remarked, a hint of a smile breaking the surface of her uncertainty. But I guess everything worth having is, right? Nathan's heart swelled with pride as he nodded. Exactly. Hard work pays off in the long run. So how about this? Let's set the first check-in for next week. We'll explore what we're carrying and how we plan to move forward. You can hold me accountable, and I'll do the same for you. Lily's acceptance glimmered in her eyes, a mix of trust and determination taking root. I like that idea. And Dad? Yes? I'm proud of you. It's hard to face things we've avoided for so long, but we can do this. Together, he echoed, feeling the weight lift slightly off his shoulders. Before they could dive deeper, Nathan felt the vibrations of his phone again. Nearly reflexively, he glanced at the screen. Another message from his father. The curiosity morphed into a whisper of dread. This time, as if the storm swirling internally was palpable, Nathan steeled himself. Maybe it's time, he thought. He turned to Lily, uncertainty gripping him anew. I have to tackle this. I'll text him back and set a date. You'll be my anchor through this, won't you? Absolutely. I'll be here, Lily promised. With resolve, Nathan sent a quick response. I'm listening. Let's talk. A surge of adrenaline coursed through him. This was commitment. This was the moment he would finally begin breaking the patterns that had shackled him for years. As they sat together in the kitchen, where walls had once felt confining, the air around them felt alive with potential. The burden they had both carried began to lighten, a transformation told not just in words but through actionable choices. In the following week, Nathan confronted his father. They tentatively navigated their painful history, both men shedding layers of bravado, revealing their insecurities and vulnerabilities. It was uncomfortable, yet exhilarating. Nathan felt the shackles of past grievances fall away. He liberated emotions he had kept locked inside for far too long. By the time he returned home, he was lighter, almost buoyant. He found Lily anxiously awaiting his arrival, eager for the answers and the impact of the encounter. How did it go? She probed, excitement in her voice. Better than I ever imagined, he replied, amazement coloring his tone. We talked. I told him how I felt, and I think he was surprised. That's amazing, Lily exclaimed, her eyes lighting up with encouragement. You took a huge step. I did, Nathan admitted with pride. And it reminded me of something. The more we share, the less isolated we feel. They settled in for their scheduled check-in, the connection between them shimmering with the vibrancy of fresh dialogue, an open space for vulnerability. I realize that opening up doesn't mean weakness, Nathan shared as they began to delve into their feelings. It means we're paving paths to growth. I get it, Dad, Lily replied, her heart engaging with his words. I've been holding on to my loneliness, too. It felt silly to ask for help, but now I see it's okay. With every exchange, they cultivated their growth. Both were committed to understanding and supporting each other fully. Nathan could feel the innate confidence blooming in himself, recognizing what it meant to be a dad who was present, willing to swear off the cycles of avoidance that had characterized his past. As the shadows of earlier hardships faded, Nathan and Lily shared a blend of unsettling fear and unyielding hope. They had taken tangible steps towards discovering the shape of new relationships, one defined by reciprocal support rather than isolation. Nathan marveled at the contrast between the man he had been before that pivotal conversation with his father and the empowered dad he was evolving into, willing to embrace connection at its core. I don't regret anything, Nathan thought as he surveyed the vibrant kitchen, now filled with laughter and warmth. This is our beginning. In that moment, sitting across from his daughter, each felt a deep well of satisfaction, solidifying their bond as they embarked upon a new chapter together. They were no longer simply navigating an uncertain future. They were co-authors, building resilience and trust, harnessing the power of transformed connection, one conversation at a time. Now, it's your turn to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.